And welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations is a podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. This belief is perhaps best encapsulated by a quote from the great Teddy Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, nor the doer of deeds could have done them better. Now the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. With that being said, welcome back to another episode of Real Conversations. And today, I'm joined by my good friend, Karolina.
Hello. Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic as of 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, so I'm back home in St. Louis. We took the podcast on the road. If you guys are watching the video, we're here in St. Louis, and I texted Karolina yesterday, and she said, well, what time would you want to do it? I said, could we do it at 8 a.m.? I'm going to the zoo with my family later.
So, I'm up anyway, so it worked well. I just didn't realize I will be doing a podcast that early.
I'm excited. You got your coffee. We're good to go.
Yep, I'm ready.
So, Karolina, you have such an interesting background and story, but the place that I want to start with this episode is how you and I met. So I'll set a little bit of background context here, and then I'll let you jump in. But my cousin Evan and I started running about a year ago. When I say running, I mean training for an ultramarathon. Our first one was actually last November. And so we had signed up to do a 100-miler the next January, last January. And we were asked to participate in an ultramarathon research study. And I was like, this is odd. I've never really heard of one of these, but sure, let's go ahead and do it. And so Evan and I showed up at Lindenwood University to participate in this ultramarathon research study. And that's where we met you, Karolina. And what was your thesis for that research study you were doing?
So it was really meant to analyze and measure biomarkers of 100-mile distance runners. And it happened that stars aligned, that GP100 was really aligning with the time that I needed. And I am good friends with race directors, and I reach them out and I say, hey, can I do study on your ultra runners that signed for 100 miles? And we say, sure. That's when I start reaching you guys. So it was really meant to analyze and measure biomarkers of and changes before and after 100-mile distance.
And obviously, we know that you're an ultramarathon runner yourself, but why did you pick this for your thesis, and what was your thoughts going into it?
So it's a backstory that when I decided to do this master's degree, I really wanted to understand ultra runners' bodies better. And I never treated running 100 miles as a big deal. I still believe that anyone can do it. And it's just really the mindset that can determine or you can actually finish it or even start. And my chair, my program director, says, you are crazy. We don't know anyone that runs 100 miles. It is a big deal. But I guess I'm used to it because I'm surrounded around people that run 100 miles. And I said, no, we are everyday people. There is nothing special about us. We eat crazy food. I don't want to say lazy, but we are average people. And he said, no. And he said, prove it. And that's how my thesis really were born.
I'm so excited because I did not know the results of this research study until this morning while I was setting up here. And I remember going through it thinking, like, what is she trying to get at? You're having us do all these different crazy tests that we'll talk about. But when you say that anyone can run 100 miles, I want to dig into that. What do you mean by that? Is that minimal training? Is that a training plan? Is that, you're saying it's 100% mindset? Like, what do you mean by anyone can run 100 miles?
It's 100% mindset. And why I'm saying it, I'm eliminating people that really have some kind of physical limitations, but on average person, on average Joe, anyone can do 100 miles. It's not limited by your physiological makeup. It's purely making a decision and commitment to train and go and do it. And if you would look in the ultra running community, It's the most diverse community and sport you ever would find, because when you go to marathons, all of them are lean, thin, toned. When you go to ultra running environment and you look people that about to start running 100 miles, you would never think those people are ultra runners. There is, some people are lean, some people are not lean. Some people has a little bit, thicker build. Some people not. Some people have extra weight. Some people not. I always say extra weight helps you, to fuel yourself for longer times. But it's not how it works. But that's what really fascinating, because it's very diverse and it's really hard to measure and study ultra runners because of a diversity.
So leading up to this research paper that you did, what was your experience in ultra running? Like, how many races had you done? What are the distances? What was your kind of background?
So I myself been running 200 mile distance races. I completed 200 miles.
Jeez.
2 years ago. Wow, it's been 2 years ago. And so I stayed, 150K, 100K, did various distances, but 200 was my biggest race that I actually trained and really had to step out of my comfort zone. I know I can finish 100 miles, but can I finish 200 miles?
My gosh. See, I'm still over here struggling to get to 100. I've tried twice, and the furthest I've gone is 80. And I hear what you're saying with the mindset, but man, is that frustrating.
It is, but it's not about just finishing. It's about what you learn about yourself. Whatever you learn about yourself, your body, your mind will help you after. And I listened to one of your podcasts before, and, you talked about how running can help really, doing hard things can help in your everyday life. For me, that's ultra running. It really goes hand in hand with your everyday life, with people suffering and just existence altogether. That's where you can translate that 100 miles.
And I like the time that you take out to go for a run. Like, I was out running yesterday, and I just looked out over a cornfield, and it was just beautiful. Like, the sun was starting to set, and it was like it was time to myself. And I enjoy when things are difficult, like during an ultra marathon. It's like you really got to grind it out, but it's also like almost kind of like a meditation while you're running. It's kind of peaceful.
Yes. So I call it my active meditation time. There is two different types of, there is more than two, but there is one where you just sit quietly and try not to think about anything. And I am not a person that can sit quietly. But while I run in the woods or on the trails, I have to be present. As soon as your mind starts going somewhere, you start tripping, you start falling. So you have to be present. You have to observe, the roots, rocks, trees around you. And that is active meditation.
We went for a run, me and Evan did, Salt Lick Trail. If you guys are from here, you'll be familiar with that. And we were going downhill, the part where there's a lot of rocks and the tree roots, and you were moving so fast. Evan and I could not believe the speed at which you were going downhill and navigating all of that.
I don't know. I always had, some people have like stronger going up the hill. Some people better going down the hill. Some people are going, better going flats. I am not good at flats. I'm not good at flats. I am much better going up the hill and down the hill. That's where my power comes in. That's why I don't like doing races in Midwest, because I cannot go fast during flat, and my body kind of feels weird. So I would rather go up the hill or down the hill. But down the hills, maybe you learn with time to navigate through the roots and rocks. But when it comes to races, I can be very competitive, especially when it comes down the hill. But it takes one step. when you go that speed, that fast, it just takes one bad step and you are out for a long time.
Your level of focus is absurd whenever you're going that fast downhill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back to the ultramarathon research study here. What were the tests that you were conducting and what were you seeing through the participants?
Yeah, so I wanted to do more than we actually did because there was system malfunction. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to do DEXA scan, which would have said so much about our runners. But we made it to work what we had. And we tried to, observe muscle thickness changes with ultrasound. We did total body water. We did counter movement jumps, force, to really see what impact does 100-mile distance has on the bodies. Mm-hmm. And, as we talked before we started, I didn't realize you didn't know, but I didn't see any significant changes. Well, but I have to say, we had runners coming in 2 and 3 days after the race. Mm-hmm. And those 48 hours can make a big difference. But just the fact that the body can recover within 48 hours from 100 miles, that is amazing.
So I guess, for example, here, one of the exercises that you had us do is you put a belt around us and then had us almost like you're doing a deadlift, except for straight with your hips. You're in a squatted position. You have to stand up as hard as you can. You're pushing down on a force plate. Are you saying that the numbers before and after the ultra were pretty well similar to what they were?
Yeah. Especially for a belt squat, it's almost slightly people perform better after.
Why?
Maybe because we were already familiar with the process. I would have eliminated this if I would have got a familiarization session before first session. But people, when they came in a first visit, they didn't know what we were doing. We had to show them. Second time, when you guys came back, people already know what we were doing. I had to take that in consideration, that perhaps that what caused it. Slight, better performance on bell squat. Counter movement jump, where you guys had to squat and jump as high as you can. That showed decrease because a lot of runners had ankle issues.
Yeah.
A lot of rolled ankles and sprained ankles. And we saw that sensitivity for sure in the results.
I think his name was Jack. I remember him walking in. He actually completed the 100. Congrats to you, Jack. And his ankles were so swollen.
Yeah, he rolled a lot of times. I feel so bad for him, but Jack is running and I stay in touch with him and he's training for another 100 miles.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so with these results here, I don't understand how, I was there. I know how I felt before and after the race. I felt much more depleted and sore after the race. But how are the results pretty well close to being the same as before?
Yeah, so depletion is more energy depletion, like you feel tired or maybe your body stiff. But does it mean that there is actually damage, or does it mean there is some kind of inflammations that your body battles? I don't know. It's not, energy depletion is very different then you're seeing your muscles being damaged. We perform ultrasound and we didn't see significant differences in muscle thickness, which means there was no big inflammation before and after. A lot of times people, assume, and there is a lot of unsupported scientific opinions in ultra running, especially from people that are not runners, that you're damaging your body, you're not going to be able to walk, there is damage to your knees, you're damaging muscles. The science not necessarily support that. And when you do those studies, even when I did my literature review, which I had to pretty much dig every study done, all ultra running, and try to justify why I'm doing my study, right? Even people that run across Europe, which I don't want to mislead plus minus there, but like over 2,000 miles, their muscle texture did not change. Which means there is no damage in the muscles after running 2,000 miles.
You see, that's something that in the back of my head as I'm running, everyone is telling me, you're not going to be able to walk when you're older. You're going to have all these problems. Your knees are screwed up. And then I was doing a half marathon last weekend, and I was talking with the PT during the race, and he told me that actually the more you run, as long as you're not starting in like your late 40s, but over the longer period of running consistently, you build up more cartilage and your bone density actually increases, meaning that you're less susceptible to getting hurt and you're actually in better shape.
I cannot agree more. So here is my life philosophy, if that's what you can say. We have looking people around, older people, right? They cannot walk. They barely can move. They have no mobility, and they are not runners. How many of our grandparents have knee replacement surgeries, hip replacement surgeries? None of them are runners. On one end, you know what? If that's what's going to happen to me, at least I can say I did epic shit in my 20s and 30s, okay? So we have people that cannot walk now, and they are not runners. They cannot walk now because they sit too much. Human bodies are meant to move. I'm not saying 100 or 200 miles is not excessive, but people travel that distance for survival reasons back in the day. And if you take care of your body and you do additional strength and conditioning, resistance training, I really don't see negative side of that. I cannot prove it besides just all positive side of ultra running.
Okay, so I want to dig into this, but before we do, I want to make sure I hit this too. With the results of your study, you talked about you didn't see much muscle difference, you didn't see much deterioration. Talk like big picture. What does that really mean for ultra runners?
People that are not runners treat ultra runners like some kind of freaks. They think that we some kind of aliens that just do crazy stuff. And what it really means that there is nothing abnormal to do 100 miles. And I'm just thinking now just for 100 miles. I don't want to get into, 100 Ks or 200 miles. It's not relevant. But as of 100 miles, it's nothing damaging to do that. We didn't see any damage besides short-term recovery, right? Calorie deficit, that's something, it's one-off people. We have to figure out their nutrition. But total body water, it depends what season you run. Is there sodium depletion or not? In winter, winter running tend to be less sodium depletion season versus summer. What it really means for an ultra runner is you can do 100 miles without worrying that you're actually damaging your body. Although I have to say, there is a line, right? If you do 100 miles twice a month or once a month for several years, well, it's not that 100 miles itself is damaging. You're just exhausting your body, you're exhausting your muscles. And, when you start depleting different body parts and, system starts compensating, that's a different topic. But 100 miles itself, running once a year or twice a year, is not as damaging as people think.
So let's not even specifically talk about 100 miles, but let's say someone's listening to this right now and they're hearing what you're saying and it's resonating. They're thinking, shoot, I got to start running. Where should they start for someone that has almost next to no baseline right now of running and exercise?
Put your shoes on and get outside. I really started seeing that people try to overcomplicate easy stuff, right? People that need to lose weight. They find million excuses how hard it is to lose weight. So they try to get on pills, try to go on extreme diets, just something difficult that is not sustainable. It's the same with running or just taking care of your body. Put your shoes on and go for a run. You don't need expensive gyms, memberships. You don't need to find 2 hours a day. All it takes is 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Get outside, right? That's how easy. But people don't like easy stuff because it's that easy. It makes them to confront themselves. Then they like, well, no, I can't do that. Then, if you overcomplicate things, how difficult it is to start running because there is no time, families and whatever, then you have an excuse not to do that. And that's when it starts building. It's all the mindset. If you don't have 20 minutes a day for yourself, well, you might need to rethink your lifestyle.
What about the people that say, I've had this nagging injury for years, this tweak here or there that I did 20 years ago, like I shouldn't go do it, I'm going to go hurt myself.
Yeah, I hear that every day from people that are around me. When people find out that I'm a runner and they start, like, oh, I have a back injury, I have a knee injury that was caused in college 20 years before. Like, it's almost like they start excusing themselves, I see people running without legs every day. They find a way. Mm-hmm. They take care of their bodies. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. One day, a year ago, I was running one trail and I had an option to kind of go straight where it's a little bit more flat trail. And if I go turn right, I actually gonna hit big hill, go up the hill. It's a little bit harder. And I'm going and I'm like, oh man, I just wanna go this easy way, get a couple miles and be done. So I'm battling this kind of right or straight. And all suddenly that guy on a bike cruised by me, and he was on a bike without a leg.
Oh my gosh.
On a prosthetic, right? And I'm like, no, you're turning right, goddammit.
You have to go right. Yeah.
You have to go hard. Like, it's the same applies for people, right? Back injuries, knee injuries. Well, have you rehabilitated? Or you just sit on a couch? Sitting on a couch or full-time job sitting will not rehabilitate. People bodies are meant to move. Half of those injuries are caused because people don't move enough. Their body gets so stiff that those injuries keeps happening.
You see,
sorry, guys.
No, I love this because I'm trying to toss out every possible excuse at you, and I feel like we're doing a good job of working through them.
It's you can come, you can go and tell people that battling cancer without legs, they have an excuse. Mm-hmm. They have an excuse to sit and do nothing, and those people, the one can do more than a healthy person.
I last weekend with the half marathon, I was running with someone that I know pretty well, and he is going through radiation right now for cancer. And I watched him struggle so much, and he just wouldn't quit. And he completed the half marathon 4 weeks into radiation. It's just like, if you can do that, like, what are all these other excuses people are making?
Yeah. I actually have a really good book that I listen million times, and the book called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. And I saw his new book came out, Scarcity something. I'm planning to read it, but that specific book, The Comfort Crisis, it talks exactly about what's going on in this new era of people just not moving. And those injuries happen because people don't move enough. Like when you start exercising and when you start addressing old injury, your body, the mobility and the injury itself starts reacting. It loosen up. If you have an injury in your body, back or knee, whatever, if you don't stretch and exercise, it starts building this tissue that makes it even worse. So if you add a decade or two on that, well, yeah, you struggle to walk, and you're not even a runner,
It's almost like healing, but like improperly, like it's solidifying itself in place while it's still damaged.
Yeah.
When you run, you're inevitably going to have tweaks or small injuries that come up. How do you address those as they come?
So I'm a big believer in strength and conditioning and resistance training. My golden rule is if I don't do those exercises, strength and conditioning, there's no running, period. And I had to learn the hard way. I had an injury in 2017. That's before I even ran ultramarathons. I started running ultras in 2019 or 2018. So it wasn't that long ago, 4 years ago.
That is crazy.
So I did Pikes Peak Marathon, and after 7 weeks after my torn meniscus surgery.
Oh.
But I did the work in 7 weeks. I didn't run. All I did was physical therapy every day, 2 hours a day. And everyone thought I will go in and gonna get re-injured. And I did not. I actually did really well. And then I really proved myself, if you do the work, you can run on a healthy body. And what is the word? I haven't got injuries since one. But my golden rule is, if you want to run, you have to do the work, because it's not like you cannot finish 100 miles without strengthening your body. Is what quality that 100 miles is going to be.
Mm-hmm. I often worry about like functionality and mobility, because when you're doing the same movement every day, even if you're just lifting, like you're developing the same muscles over and over again. And I think it's important to have the supporting muscles that are there able to help and catch and support you, as it's titled, whenever you're running or lifting or whatever else you're doing in your daily life.
Yeah. I don't know what I have science behind necessarily. Not all my professors agreed with me that, if you do exercises, or like all the knee issues are really caused by poor glute, quad, and core muscles. And they couldn't disagree with me. They just didn't think that way. So every time when people say I have a knee injury, I'm like, glutes and quads, man. Because if you have those two muscles, those are one of the biggest muscles, right? And if they are weak, all the pounding and everyday walking you do, your knees doing, sustaining all that weight that's not supposed to be sustaining,
You see, I appreciate you giving this advice and you doing this research study so much, because often I feel like a lot of the research comes from older people who are just speculating on something, rather than like you're an actual ultra runner that is talking about these things, that has done these principles. That's so much different than someone just saying, yeah, I read about it and here's what I think is going on.
Yeah, and that's where the slight disconnect comes in. So when you go to the orthopedic doctor, right? I sprained my ankle and I go to the doctor, right? And they like, well, you just need to stop running. You just need to stop running. Is it? I look in a waiting room, all these 60, 70, 80-year-olds there in a wheelchairs because they can walk, not because of just because their muscles are so weak. And they were not runners. Is that a life? You know what I'm saying? Like,
no.
So when I go to the doctors or I talk to professionals, I try to make sure they really understand the sport. For me, it's really important. I don't need to go to the doctor and all he has to say, well, stop running. That's not a solution. What you wanted to stop running and sit on a couch? Is that your solution? So you really have to know your, professionals that you are talking to, or people that actually themselves are there and understand the real science. Not real science, but actually knows the experience that people going through.
This is something that I noticed when I started running, like the community of ultra running is so supportive. It's very much people of the same mindset, similar, not even like it is such a unique, so many different types of people that do it, but they all think and behave similarly whenever they're out there, and it's in a positive direction. Why do you think that is the case with ultra running?
Because there is so much suffering.
It's like a crazy community. It's so tight knit.
It is. There is, perhaps people know that. So this is my takeaway when I look in ultra running community. When you look in the marathons, people compete with each other. It's almost like becomes that negative mindset of like, I want to beat that person. Mm-hmm. In ultra running, you really have to watch who you're competing with. A lot of people, not all, that do ultra running, they try to heal from something, right? There is so many people that recovered from alcoholism. People lost children, loved ones, childhood traumas. Doesn't matter. So, how can I compete with someone that perhaps is beating me, but is healing, losing their daughter? Their fuel is very different. Their mindset is very different. So I think that's where that ultra running community comes in, that people understand we are doing hard things here. And it's a long way to go, especially at the start line. And it really builds the connection because you also the one that is going through that.
Do you think there's healing in doing hard things like ultra running?
Yeah. I myself had to go through that. All my people that I know had amazing life stories, hard things happening. And I do believe that ultra running is one of the best medicine from a lot of hard things in life.
I really like it because I feel like it's your most broken down. You can honestly evaluate yourself and have just a different perspective on things that have happened and what it, like, you can think so clearly whenever that's the only thing you can focus on because you're in so much pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but what is also beautiful is to see you struggling so much, dropping to the ground, saying you can no longer go forward. And somehow you find the courage and strength to stand up and keep going. That's what you learn about yourself that will take you a long way in life.
And you don't see that in many other sports. It's very unique to this one. It would, not to make too hard of a change here, but what is also unique to this sport is, What is also unique to this sport is my last ultramarathon that I was doing. I've seen this a couple of times. I've heard about it. It was an older gentleman, super nice guy. We're in mile like 60 now. It's like 2 a.m., right? And I'm sitting there dying with my pacers, and I see this guy ahead of me, and I've chugged so much water. I'm drinking all the electrolytes. Like, I'm doing everything I think I should be doing, right? And I see this guy, and he's got a can in his hand. I'm like, what's this guy drinking? It's like new energy drink or something. He's drinking a beer. And then I start talking to him. He's like, yeah, usually on the night shift, I just get a couple of friends and we just drink beer through the night. And then, I finish, I'll figure I'll finish the next 20, 30 miles in the morning and drink water then. And I'm like, what is that? Like, what is this nutrition plan?
So it always makes me laugh because when I did my study on Shippy, our program director from Lindenwood came in, and Dr. Chad Kirksick, and he just came to kind of observe and draw blood from you guys because I wasn't approved at the time to draw blood yet, so I needed help. Plus, you have to have two people kind of to do that. And he came in, and I think that was his first time being around ultra runners. And he is also a nutrition guy. So he is like really hardcore nutrition. His studies being cited. He's very well respected in his work, right? And he sees what food ultra runners are eating at 2:00 in the morning.
Yep.
He got horrified. He's like, what? Like bacon, hot dogs, cheeseburgers, chips, Skittles, like whatever, candies, Coke, all the junk you can imagine, right? So yeah, if you would take your kids to those stations, they would be like, is my mom or dad eating this stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that? Like, why does that not seem to negatively impact people in their performance? Like, they're still getting the race done. They're still finishing. They're not just like crashing out because they had 4 beers and a bag of Skittles. Like,
yeah, well, I don't know about alcohol part. That's that's special, right? Some people are more laid back than others. If you move a little bit slower, the alcohol, it's not gonna impact you too much. Some people can do that, but the food itself, you need to consume food that can be absorbed fast within your body. And also keep in mind, you're burning so many calories. Oh my gosh, you can lose 5-6 pounds, and a lot of it is water. After 100 miles, after 200 miles, I lost 9 pounds. And I was eating so much. I was shoveling all the hot dogs I can get hands on. And, but yeah, you cannot keep up. I came across one study talking about calorie deficit, that on 100-mile distance runners, they were deficit 6,000 calories.
Really? Ooh.
And on 150 miles, they were deficit 9,000 calories, even if you consume food. So all that junk that is there is to really give people options. Because if you're going to offer me carrots while I run 100 miles, I will send you a long way. Give me solid food that is high in calories, sugar.
Yep.
Like Coke, right? I don't drink Coke every day. It's junk. But on ultra runs, it's the same with hot dogs. Man, everyone laughs from me because in daily life, I eat very healthy. I watch my nutrition. It's a little bit higher carbs, right? But you better believe it, I would never go to the grocery store and buy hot dogs. It's pure junk. But during my 100-mile races, I eat hot dogs.
The Whole Foods surprised me. I remember the first 50 that I did, all I ate was like the Cliff Chews, and it was like they have the gels, but they have the chew version of them.
Yeah.
And I ate that the entire time, and man, was my stomach upset, and my tongue was like all swollen from eating just that the entire time. So then the Shippy 100, I was eating like hamburgers and pizza and everything, and I felt so much better. Just even though it didn't add up in my head, it didn't compute. I'm like, I'm sitting here eating a burger. This isn't going to help me. I felt so much better.
Oh yeah. Because those two, I know what you're talking about. I use them too. I had them. I don't do gels. I wish I would. Some people can do gels.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because it's convenient, it's fast, it's light, right? I go with real food, which means I have to pack oranges, right? Like the weight, the size, gels are much more convenient. But I do like those Cliff things, those sweet chewables, but you only can eat so much.
Right. Yeah, my new go-to as of recent is on the family farm, Evans up there. They have a beehive, or I guess a bee farm. And so we use their honey. And then every morning my breakfast is I cut up a banana, put it in a bowl, and I just drench it in honey. That's my go-to now.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Because the honey, if I'm not mistaken, is very similar to what is in those gels. And it's just like slow burning, long sustaining fuel for your runs.
Yeah. Someone said that they were making their own.
Evan wants to make his own gels.
Okay. Did he try?
He is still working on it, I think.
Okay. I think someone mentioned about maple syrup.
Probably him too.
Okay.
He's into all that.
Okay. Yeah. It's pure sugar. Maybe not white, sugar, but honey, maple syrup, all of that. That's what it is in those things. I just don't like this. It doesn't sit well with my stomach, and I would rather eat some oranges. I actually the last several years switched to nuts, almond nuts, and cranberries, dry cranberries.
Interesting.
And I mix them together. It's a game changer for me.
I feel like the nuts wouldn't sit well in my stomach.
So the beauty of nuts, why I am kind of switch and start trying and it really works well, is because nuts are being absorbed a little bit slower by your body. Like dry cranberries get absorbed much faster. So I get this combination that gives me energy immediately and also starts working on giving me energy a little bit later. And the more you run, body starts utilizing your fat sources faster than your glycogen. So I'm in a big mindset that if I consume those nuts, it will help me to preserve my glycogen, especially when you're out there for 40, 50, 60, 80 hours. But nuts, I found, really sits well with me. And yeah, it doesn't sit maybe with everyone. It's pretty dry. So when I eat, I kind of have to drink some water to get this going. But it doesn't upset my stomach.
I might have to give it a try. You said almonds?
Just unsalted or salted, but not like seasoned or anything, just regular raw almonds.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. One other thing I want to touch on that I found interesting that I want to get your thoughts on is with a lot of sports, you see the difference between male and female athletes in the sport, things such as bone structure, height, muscle structure, all of that making a significant difference. Like you look at the NBA versus WNBA basketball. The athleticism, I guess, if you want to use that term, is significantly different. But if you look at ultra running, for example, Courtney Dauwalter has just been kicking everyone's butts, including all of the men. You're a better runner than I am. Like, why is it that this seems to be a sport where gender doesn't matter for performance?
Because women can do hard things.
Well, that's not what I was trying to say, though.
So it's well known now, and seems like studies keeps popping now more and more, because what I like about science is science starts absorbing new things that is happening and they jump into study, right? And we see that with distance, the gender differences disappear. Some people say that women actually can endure more physically. Their bodies are meant for that because of hips and childbearing things.
I've heard about that.
Yeah. Some people say men are softer. I'm kidding.
No, I've heard that one too. I've heard that one. I'm not going to lie.
Perhaps men don't like being uncomfortable. I don't know. But it is true that the longer the distance, the gender differences disappear. Because I believe that's when the mindset enters. Men run faster, short distance. You put women in a longer distance and she gonna pass men in no time, right? Not all. I'm just saying in general. Courtney is amazing. I don't follow runners a lot. I'm not a person that I idolize anyone. But she has something in her. And the fact that she doesn't follow any training plans, she eats everything, and she's kind of doing her own thing. I have a lot of respect for that, But I do think the differences in gender disappears because that mindset enters in.
That would support your thesis of ultra running being a mindset thing. I could see that making sense.
Yeah, because I'm not saying that women can endure more than men in general mentally, but if you would look in women who have children, have families, they do more. They do more mentally, and perhaps that's what it translates into running. I have a lot of respect for women and males as well, that has kids, families, and still go and do those badass races.
That's crazy.
I have so much respect for that. I don't have children. I can dedicate all my evenings to running. I have no commitments, just to go and run, for 3-4 hours. How people do that with kids, I have no idea.
I had on a couple months ago, I guess almost probably a year ago. Her name's Jennifer Strong McConaughey, and she's back in Wichita, but she's got a couple of kids, and she will routinely do ultra marathons, and I think she canoed 200 miles, just like these crazy adventures.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They always laugh that, when people start training for 200 miles, people end up divorcing. Because you run all the time,
I think that helped the marriage. You're not around.
Maybe that's also, if you're tired of each other, yes, go sign for 200 miles, I want you to be less at home. So that's definitely also a solution.
Nice. Well, Karolina, as we start to wrap up, I have a couple of things. The first one being, I just would like to get this out on the air, that all of my results came back that I was stronger and more athletic than Evan. Can you just confirm that for me?
You two are killing me. I cannot confirm that because I like Evan the same way I like you. But what I will say is, to see you pushing just an extra 5-10 miles at your shippy was fascinating.
You talked about most people run because they have like trauma and all of that being very real. I really do feel like Evan and I, whenever we run, it's like we're just competing with each other.
It's fascinating. And I really don't know how you guys do it. It's really beautiful thing to see that you guys have, strong family connection and you guys have each other. And you know what? If you guys competing and that's your fuel, go for it. At the end of the day, at the finish line, you guys just gonna hug each other. And that is a very beautiful thing. It's really where it becomes that negative wishiness of people to break a leg.
Yeah.
So I could win. That's when it becomes a little bit sick.
No, we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Give them more years.
Yeah, I'd trip him here and there. I wouldn't break his leg yet.
Yeah, but you guys motivate each other and you guys push each other to be a better human being, to be a better runner. And that's extremely beautiful to see because you don't see that very often.
I'm definitely fortunate. Okay, Karolina, first question. Where can people find you online if they want to connect, learn more?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the two platforms I mainly use.
Okay.
Instagram is my first name and .zav, my first three initials of my last name.
Yep.
And on Facebook, it's my full first and last name, which I'm assuming you're gonna post.
I'll post it for you.
Yeah, because people I'm not telling her last name. Like you asked, like how you say your last name. I'm like, don't worry about it.
No, I'll put the link in there for you.
Yeah. I just share the experience and share the way I feel. I'm a big believer that when we share our struggles, people can connect, and we already live in a society that people struggle and suffer from loneliness and disconnection. So sharing your struggle and your journey helps people to understand that we all are in some kind of suffering and we are not alone. And I think more people should share about their struggles and the obstacles that they have to overcome in life. Because if you can help one person to feel that we're not alone, that's a beautiful thing to do.
I agree. And I hope that this episode will do that for people. And I think that you will have done that for people.
Yeah, I hope people gonna put running shoes and go outside.
Yes, right?
Right, yeah, just like go around the block. People say, well, like I just go and I get tired. Well, pace yourself, like just go for a walk.
Well, my advice has always been don't feel like you have to run the whole thing. Like if you're putting the shoes on, if you have to walk 90% of your first 10 runs, I don't care. You got outside at least.
Yeah. So I train people on a weekends and, people are not runners. But what I tell them, is just like when we do 1 mile run, so we do 4 minutes run, 4 minutes walk, 4 minutes run, 4 minutes walk. That helps to break the mile, and it helps them to understand that they actually can do it.
Big paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend. It helps us grow. Karolina, my last question for you is, looking back at this really cool journey that you've been on, what advice would you give to your 22-year-old self?
Wow.
You can take a second.
Okay, that's a big one.
I know.
You should have told me to prepare for this question.
She asked me if I could send her like a couple of things beforehand, so I gave her some topics, but I intentionally left this one out because I like people to think about it in the moment.
If I could give an advice for my 22-year-old self, I would say stop worrying and take those opportunities. Go. Mess it up, you're going to be okay. I always was worried that I will not going to be okay, that this is my lifelong mistakes if I mess it up. And now that I look decade later, I wish that I would have made more mistakes and took more chances just to go and stop worrying. Because at the end of the day, we are all going to be okay.
I love that. Thank you for coming on, Karolina.
Thank you. Thank you.